So Chai made this video, like how many Pokemon can I name in 30 minutes? And I thought, okay, that's an easy challenge. I'm gonna just name them all. And I believe I'll be able to get all of them at least, because I'm normal. Yep. So anyway, I'm probably gonna do this by generation, because it's just what I'm used to. I'm gonna talk over it while I'm doing it, hopefully. Anyway. Starters first, but it's just Bulbasaur, Ivysaur, Venusaur, all that stuff. The great part is you don't really have to worry about the forms and the Gigantamax and the Megas and all of that stuff that just gets filled in while you're doing this. So if you've had the starters, there's obviously like the early game stuff like the the birds, you have the rat. Obviously there's also the bugs. I always like to include Venonat and Venomoth in here. Talking about typing is hard, by the way. This is going to be a lot slower than I'm used to. Then you get to like what I call the Team Rocket portion, because you have Pikachu, Raichu, and Pikachu, Meowth. Fun fact, they're actually opposite Pokemon numbers. Pikachu is 25, I believe, and Meowth is 52. So they kind of mirror each other. And then with Meowth, I'm thinking, okay, Team Rocket, so they have all the poison types. Ekans, Arbok, Zubat, Golbat, Coughing, Wheezing, Grimer, Muk. You also have Nidoran, Nidorino, all that stuff. I think we've reached the point of the first gym then, which means rock types. With Gen 1 it's easy, you basically get to memorize everything, so I can just pop out every single rock type in here. And then there's some little counters, and I'm thinking of this because if you pick Charmander, you basically need a Nidoran because it learns Double Kick, which is one of the only fighting moves. So I'm thinking, okay, fighting types. There's a Mankey and Primeape that come in, not at this point in the game, but a little later. But I'm putting them in this category anyway. Okay, so now we're basically done with the first two areas, the first like early game stuff and the gym. So then we go into Mount Moon. In Mount Moon, you obviously have the Moonstone Pokemon. You also find Paras in there, and I know this because in Fire Red and Leaf Green. You need the tiny mushrooms that only Paras has to like have the move reminder do anything, and it's really weird and I don't get why, but it's a thing, so I'm putting them in there. Then we just kind of already reached the water gym, and there's a million water Pokemon, so I've also divided those into a couple categories. So I'm mostly pulling from the anime here, because Misty has a team of Staryu, Starmie, she has a Horsey, Seadra, she has a Psyduck, and a Goldeen. So that's already 4 knocked out. Then there's like just the seafood category, I call them. So you have Shelder, Cloyster, you have Tentacool. Some people eat jellyfish, I believe. It still fits. You have Magikarp, Gyarados. What else? I'm missing one. Krabby. There we go. You have Seal, Dugong, and Lapras. And then there's kind of just the miscellaneous category, like Seal, Lapras, like Poliwhirl, Poliwag, Poliwrath, and Slowbro and Slowpoke. So that should be all of them, and if I'm missing one, I'm gonna be really embarrassed. And of course, I'm always working in kind of gym order, so we have the counters here. So that's Oddish, Gloom, Vileplume, Bellsprout, Weepinbell, Victreebel, Tangela, we have Execute, just all the grass types. And then I also like to put the grass counters in there, so that's Growlithe, Arcanine, Vulpix, Ninetales, Ponyta, and Rapidash. But then we reach the third gym, Electric, so we have Voltorb, Electrode, Magnemite, Magneton, Magnezone comes later, don't worry. And then the standalones, Electabuzz. And Electabuzz is kind of part of a trio with Magmar and Jinx. And then I'm thinking of other trios, like the Eevees. Then kind of comes this weird middle point, because there's Gen 1 has a lot of like standalone mons that kind of don't do anything. So I'm grouping some of these together because they're just kind of their own category. So there's one in Pokemon Go. They have like these regional locks with actual like region of the world. I know Europe has like Mr. Mime, and then I think the US has Tauros maybe. So all of those go in one category. Mr. Mime, Kangaskhan, Farfetch'd, Lickitung, of course. Lickitung isn't part of that, but it's, again, one of those weird standalones. What would be next? The grass gym, but the problem is we've already had grass. But grass and poison share a lot of similarities, and what's good against poison, that's Psychic. And Psychic is also just the next gym after that. So we have a couple Psychic types. Drowsy, Hypno. You can also, in Saffron and Celadon. Celadon is the Game Corner, and the Game Corner has Porygon. And I believe in Saffron, is it? You have the Fighting Jodo with Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan. We're going into the Safari Zone now. Safari Zone has Doduo, Dodrio, underrated Pokemon in my opinion. I really like them. We have Rhydon, those are already in there. There's a lot of Safari Zone that's already basically done. Scyther and Pinsir are exclusives, and Chansey. See, we've already covered it. Then we're just missing the Pokemon Tower, Ghastly, Haunter, Gengar, Pokemon Mansion, Ditto, and then we're basically home free with Dratini, Dragonair, Dragonite, Snorlax, Articuno, Zapdos, Moltres, Mew, and Mewtwo. Easy. Gen 1 done. Then Gen 2. Gen 2 is weird. You need a special kind of insanity to memorize Gen 2. Because the problem that Gen 1 had with a lot of these like standalone mons is basically the entirety of Gen 2. And I hate it. But I've developed my own little brain rot method for it. So of course we start with the starters. That's going to be the same each time. Early game stuff, we have 2 normal types, Sentret, Furret, and of course Hoot Noctowl. There we go. There's a couple bugs in there, and just other early games like Marie, Poppet, with the water types, Whooper, Quagsire, and Meryl, Azumarill, Fampi, Donphan, also pretty early in Crystal, and I believe we've already kind of reached the end of the early game. Now comes the part where I go completely insane. Because the first gym is the flying gym, but the problem is we've already had most like important flying types, but there's 4 in one category that's all standalone, and I couldn't really put in one category, so I just named them the Flying Gang. So that's Murkrow, Mantine, Skarmory, and Delibird. Don't ask me why, they're just a thing. And of course, that's not insane enough. You need counters for those, like Electric, Chinchou, and Lantern. There's also another just pretty random water type, that's Remoraid and Octillery. And what are those good against? Fire types. Oh right, there's no fire gym in Johto. In fact, you can't really find them until the post game, so there's no location where you could really tie them to. So I'm just putting them here. Houndour, Houndoom, Slugma, and Magcargo. There's one thing I missed actually, because in the early game I also like to include all the bugs. So Shuckle, Heracross, Yanma, Pineco, and Forretress. So after the first gym you kind of... Johto is so weird, I never get the layout quite memorized. But there's the Runes of Elf, and those have a lot of psychic types, like Wobbuffet, like Unknown, like Natu Zatu. There's also Smeargle in there. Stantler has kind of psychic abilities, so I'm putting him there also. And then we already reached Gym 2, which is Bug, but I've already had the bugs because I like to do them earlier. So that's Gym 3 already. That's normal type. Snubble, Teddiursa, and of course the infamous Miltank. Now, also, right before the third gym, before Goldenrod, is the daycare. They give you the odd egg, and the odd egg has the weird shiny chances and also like all the babies. The babies have a couple categories, and mostly it's just the trio from earlier with like Magby, Elekid, and Smoochum. Again, they really tried to make that a trio. And there's also the Hitmons, of course. Then we have the more like cutesy, the normal types. So Cleffa, Igglybuff, Togetic, and Pichu. Then, because it's babies, it's pre-evolutions, my mind is always on the topic of, okay, evolution. So that's friendship evolutions like Crobat, like Blissey, like Umbreon, and Espeon. There's the stone evolutions like Sunkern, Sunflora, and Bellossom. With Bellossom, somehow, don't ask me why Sudowoodo is always tied to Bellossom. I don't know, just don't question it. And we have the Metal Coat, which is Steelix and Scizor. We have the Kingdra, which is Politoed and not Kingdra, but that's also a king, and Slowking. Porygon 2. I believe that covers all the unique evolution items. And there's like move evolutions, which is Aipom. And we have Razor Duo with the Razor Claw and Razor Fang, which is Gligar. And Sneasel, which is also paired with the other ice types, Swinub and Piloswine. Other move evolutions would be... Oh right, Ancient Power, but I've already had those. Then there's just like the Gen 8 forms, which is Corsola, Quillfish for Hisui. And we also have the Gen 9 evolutions, which is Dunsparce and Girafarig. And I'm missing Miss Drevis as the 4th gym because I kind of skipped that over. And there we go, we have already basically got the entirety of Gen 2. Pseudo's in here, Tyranitar, and the legendaries Entei, Raikou, Suicune, Lugia, Ho-Oh, and of course Celebi. Gen 2 done. And moving on to Hoenn, and Hoenn is pretty big. And what I like about Hoenn is that it's pretty linear for like the first half of the decks. I can pretty easily like race through it. What I always like to do with these, with the birds, once you get to the birds in the early game, Wingo and Pelipper are kind of found on the beach. And the beach, water, so I think of Azurill. And Azurill is one of 2 baby Pokemon in the entirety of Gen 3. So I always put Wynaut with it as well, because I never really slotted in elsewhere. Then we reach the forest with the mushroom. Okay, so that's the entirety of the early game area area before the first gym. And as you can see, it's already pretty big. Now, the first gym is rock, and there's not really any very notable rock types, so I just go with Nosepass. Because the area after the first gym is already, again, packed with new Pokemon, like the Skitty line, Delcatty, and more normal types like Whismur, Loudred, and Explode. Also a couple bug types in there, like Nincada, Ninjask, and Shedinja. And I believe that is it. There's a gap in there. Gen 3 Pokédex order is weird, don't question it. Because then you take like a whole ship to Dewford Town with the Dewford Cave. There's a couple cave Pokemon in there, like Aron, Laron, Aggron, and also the duo of Mawile, Sableye, the Rock Eater. Then the gym, of course, has fighting types like Makuhita, Hariyama, Meditite, Medicham. We move on to Slateport, that's also beach, it's not really important. But the area up ahead has a lot of like I believe it's the only electric types in all of Hoenn, which is Electrike, Manectric, Colossal, and Mine, and that's it. It's weird how small that selection is. Also have the two bugs there, Volbeat, Illumise, I believe it's pronounced. Illumise, I never know. Not Slugma, but Gulpin and Roselia as the 3 poison types. Then I always kind of lose track, but I believe the fire area, like Falarbor, comes next. Is it Falarbor? Or is it like the path to it? Anyway, it's the volcano area, so you have fire types like Numel, Camerupt. Also, Spoink and Grumpig appear there. Oh, that's concerning that there's a single slot there, because I'm not remembering it right now, because it's Torkoal. There we go. Then you reach Meteor Falls, I believe, in story, so Solrock, Lunatone. As you can see, the dex becomes kind of disorganized here, but it'll be fine. It'll all work out. You can find Spinda up there. People think, oh, Skarmory, because that's also spawns there, but Skarmory is Gen 2 and part of the flying gang there, and I don't know why. I believe that is the end of the fire area already, and then you can believe this is where you get the goggles to go in the desert with Cacnea, Cacturn, Fossils, Anorith, Armaldo with Lileep, Cradilly, Baltoy, Claydol, the not pseudos but dragon types, Trapinch is not dragon but Vibrava is, and Flygon. I think the 4 I'm missing up there are fine. I really hope so, because it's gonna be embarrassing if I forget one here. 5th gym is normal type, and I believe we've already had all the major normal types, which means we are on to the 6th gym, which would be Winona, what is it? Fortree City. And in that area there's a lot of standalone. We have of course Castform from the Weather Institute, we have Kecleon, we have Absol, there's Tropius there. Also just, you get the fishing rod or surf, maybe both, but there's a lot of water types here. Barboach, Wishcash, there's Corphish, there's Crawdont, there's Feebas and Milotic, Carvana and Sharpedo. I'm getting stressed out about the 4 behind Cacturn. Oh well, I'm sure it won't matter. Oh right, Zangoose and Viper also here. Oh, there we go, that's 2 of them. Okay, not concerning at all, totally. Yep, I'm gonna have to go back to this later, I think. Oh no. There's also Wilmer and Wailord. Those are ocean Pokemon. I don't get why they're grouped with Sharpedo for some reason. I know sharks, but like Carvana is found in the weird area there. I believe you're then supposed to go to Mount Pyre with all the ghosts, which is Duskull, Dusclops, Shuppet, Bayonet, and also the 5% chance of Chimecho. I believe it's not, no wait, it's not 5%, it's lower. It's what is weird. Okay, you know what, I'm just gonna move on because I don't think I'm gonna figure it out right now. It's probably a water type that I've missed, but I can't think of it right now. And it really sucks. So moving on, there's a little ice area with the Shoal Cave, which has Spheal, Celio, Walrein. It also has Snorunt and Glalie. Then I believe we already are onto the pseudo legendaries, which is Beldum, Metang, Metagross, Bagon, Shelgon, Flygon. Not Flygon. I always think, because of the naming scheme. The naming scheme makes sense, right? Bagon, Shelgon, Flygon. And not Salamence, but apparently it's Salamence. I know what I missed after Walrein. That's the dive Pokemon like Lovedisc, Relicanth, you have the Clamperl, Huntil, Gorbis line. And then we're on to the legendaries. Regirock, Regice, Registeel, we have Latios, Latias, Kyogre, Groudon, Rayquaza, Jirachi, and Deoxys. And I still hate that I've missed those 2, and I don't know why. What am I missing? What am I missing? Oh, of course, Swablu, Altaria. I'm forgetting the actual flying types with the flying gym. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna get a drink real quick. Okay, then we're on to Gen 4. And what I kind of like about Gen 4 is that it has a lot of like the just like post-gen evolutions. So there's a lot of like later gen. stuff. Which means the actual dex is pretty tiny, honestly, with a pretty big early game again. Fun fact about Budu and Roserade, I believe they're the only Pokemon who has had a baby form and evolution introduced in the same generation. Then we get to the first gym that is rock type, and in this case that means fossils, because they're right there in the dex for some reason. And then we move on to, I believe, like the Floroma Town, Fair Valley Windworks kind of area with the honey trees. And honey trees have bugs on them, like Combi, Vespiquen, Burmy, Wormadam, Motham. On the honey trees you also have the infamous Munchlax. And now we get into another insane thing I've memorized, which is the Gen 4 baby Pokemon, because there's quite a few. So I've thought of two methods, because they're two pairs really. You have the triple M, so that's Munchlax, Mantike, and Mime Jr. And it's not ABC, but it's HBC, which is close enough. Japini, Bonsly, and Chingling. Then in the Valley Windworks we have like Pachirisu, and also water types, Shellos, Gastrodon, Buizel, and Floatzel. On Fridays, after you've cleared the Team Galactic stuff there, there's Drifloon and Drifblim. Then we go into the forest, I believe, with Glameow, Perugly, Stunky, Skuntank, and there's another of the pairing, Baniri Lapani. In the forest you can find the Mossy Rock, but that's not important right now. You can find the Old Chateau with the Rotom. It's all the way over there. What am I missing in that one slot? I believe that's Chatot. It's not. Okay, never mind. Oh, wait, right. The forest is weird because it has the Duskstone evolutions right here, which is Mismagius and Honchcrow, and it has Ambipom also in the forest for some odd reason, and I don't get why. And of course, Cherim and Cherubi for the grass gym, which comes right after. After the grass gym is the third gym, which depends on the version you're playing. I believe in Platinum it's the fighting gym, while in Diamond and Pearl it's the ghost gym. So if we're going Platinum, where we have Riolu and Lucario as the only like important fighting types, and I always pair Bronzor and Bronzong with them because psychic types, they're psychic steel and they're effective against fighting. So after that we would have maybe the ghost gym, maybe another gym, I'm not even sure. Sinnoh always gets me messed up, but Spiritomb. Anyway, Spiritomb, because that's the only ghost type we're still missing. So then we reach the swamp area, Pastoria City, with the Great Marsh, which has things like Carnivine, it has things like Kurogunk, Toxicroak, Skorupi, and Drapion. It also has the water gym with Finneon and Luminion. And for some reason to the left you can find Hippopotas and Hippowdon. You might be seeing a triple gap here, which is for the Pseudo Legendaries, because for some reason they're not listed at the end of the decks here. After that we have the Steel Gym and the Electric Gym and the Ice Gym, which aren't really important at all because we're only really missing Snover and Oba. And this is honestly the end of the regular Sinnoh decks. After this it's all like just a ton of Legendaries and a ton of cross-gen evolutions. Starting with the Mount Coronet ones, which is like the explanation for a magnetic field, which causes Nosepass to evolve in Probopass and Magnezone. Then we have the trio where Jinx has been replaced by Rhydon, so Rhyperior, Electivire, and Magmortar. There's stones, of course, we have Dawnstone with Frostlass and Gallade, Ancient Power with Mamoswine, Yanmega, Tangrowth. There's Razor Duo with Weavile and Gliscor, and there is one more with Licky with a weird evolution method. Then we have, there's another category that I'm missing. Of course, we have Leafeon and Glaceon. What am I still missing here? God damn it. Oh, right, new evolutions for trade items with Dusknoir and Porygon Z, and Shiny Stone with Togekiss. I believe it's now over to the Legendaries, which is once again easy. And of course I'm already missing one and I don't know why. Yoga, Palkia, Giratina, Yuxi, Mesprit, Azelf. Yeah, see, I'm just not thinking straight. Okay, Sinnoh done. 4 gens done. Perfect. Now on to Unova, which is my favorite. It also has the second largest dex. Technically maybe even the largest, I don't know. Both Unova and Kanto have a dex of 151, I believe. Even though Unova lists more here. I'm not sure how that works. It doesn't matter. Let's just start with the best Pokemon, Oshawott. And of course, just to keep the decks like clean, I always like to put Victini in ahead as well. Gen 5 is kind of a weird early game area because you can kind of divide it into two parts. Because you obviously have the early normal types like Patrat and Lillipup, and the birds like Pidove and Liepard. But there's also like Blitzel and Substrika, and there's also the whole cave area that you go into really early with Roggenrola. Not Excadrill, but that's also what I'm thinking of because Drillbur is also found in the cave, and Gigalith. You can find Woobat and Swoobat. And there's also, I think we're going to the first gym actually, which is listed earlier for some reason, even though you can get these before, I believe. We have Pansear, Pansage, 4, all the elemental monkeys. And of course, that's right in the dream yard where also Muna and Musharna are found. Then the second gym, which is in the Nakreen city, I believe, near the forest. You can find a couple fighting types there to work against the normal types. So we have Sock, Throw, we have Timber, Girder, Kelder. There's also the weird frog types, not types, but like the frogs, which is Timple, Palpitoad, and Seismitoad. And at one spot must be Autono, which I always pair with Basculin as like standalone mons again. It also has the archaeology museum, so I put the fossils there, Archaeops and Tortuga Caracasta. Then the Pinwheel Forest, which has a massive amount of bug types and grass types. Swaddle, Swadloon, Livani, Venipede, Whirlipede, Scolipede, and the version exclusives Cottony, Whimsicott, and of course, what is the other one? Pedalil, Lilligant. And then we reach Castelia City, and Castelia City doesn't really have any wild encounters, and they have the bug gym, which we've just covered, so it's not really important to go over. But once you go to Route 4, I believe, the desert route, you get a ton of Pokemon there once again. To Rubble, before the desert resort, we have Scraggy, Scrafty, we have Darumaka, Darmanitan, and of course the goats, Crocodile, Krokorok, and Sandile. And once you reach the desert resort, you can find Maractus, we can find the weird psychic types like Sigilyph, Ghost, Yamask, Grigus. Later in the game, you have Larvesta and Volcarona. So we reach Nimbasa City now, which also doesn't have encounters in that electric gym, but there's only one important electric type right now because the rest comes later. So I'm putting Imoga here, and on the side roads you can find like Trubbish, Garbodor, you can find the normal types, Minccino, Chinchino. Technically, if you have the event, like shiny legendary beast from Gen 4, you can trigger a Zorua event. And there's the psychic exclusives with Solosis, Duosion, Rioniclus, Gothita, Gotharita, Gothitelle. Then on the Driftville drawbridge, you can find Ducklet and Swanna. And then we reach Driftville. And Driftville is ground type gym. Honestly, now that I think about it, the gym types don't really matter much here. It's mostly what's found around them. Because in Driftville is the cold storage, which means ice types, which means Vanillite, Vanillish, Vanillux, Cupchu, Beartic, and Cryogonal. Then on the route next to that is all the like Fungus, Amoongus, we have Deerling, Carablast, weird trade evolution guys, Scavalier, Shelmet, and Excelgor. And I believe that is Chargestone Cave, which has all the electric types I talked about earlier. Joltik, Volvantula, Dynamo, Electric, Electros. There's Clink, Clang, also steel types, Clink, Clang, Rossseed, Pharaoh, Thorn. There's also 3 missing there. They'll come later. It's weird dex order again. And 5 is pretty good at that, but it's fine for the most part. After that we reach Mistralton, there we go. Just flying types, and we've covered most of the good flying types, but there's 2 like really late game, really late evolution ones, which is weird. Rufflet, Braviary, Volibine, Mandibuzz. Wild encounters really stop being unique here, except for like really unique areas like Celestial Tower with LGM, Behem, and the Litwick line. Let's see. Oh, I always get confused here because in Black and White 2 it differs here, and you go all the way to the weird city. Not Lacunosa? What's it called? I don't remember. Huh. Anyway, the weird desert town with the spooky house and the reversal mountain. But in reality, you go, in Black and White 1, you go here through Twist Mountain to Isurus, I believe. Isurus has Stunfisk, and it also has Dragon Spiral Tower with Golurk and Golett. Banger Pokemon, I must say. Dragon Spiral, obviously, that makes you think of dragons. So that's Druddigon, Axew, Haxorus, and Fracture, which is Dino, Zoilus, Hydreigon. From here, it does get kind of messy, because late game Gen 5 is kind of weird, so I just kind of try to remember these because they're not really in any category. So there's Bisharp, there's Pawniard, there's Buffalant, we have Mienfoo, Mienshao, Durant and Heatmore is a weird combo, and then we get to kind of switching back to Black and White 2, their final gym is the water type with Frillish, Jellicent, and Olomomola. And that should be it for regular Gen 5 decks, so we just got Landorus, Thundurus, Tornadus, we have Cobalion, Virizion, and Terrakion. There is, of course, Reshiram, Zekrom, and Kyurem, Meloetta, Genesect, and who am I forgetting? Keldeo, because it's the most forgettable. Gen 5 done. Okay, we're really getting into it now, because we're at Kalos Gen 6 with the smallest regional decks, because they introduced a ton of megas. And as you can see, almost none of them are from Gen 6 itself. And the weird thing about Gen 6 is that I really can't put most of these Pokemon into all these categories, because they're the only part of that category. You only have really one one early game rodent kind of thing. Rabbits aren't rodents, I think, but yeah, they're animals. So we have Bunnelby, Diggersby. You have one regional bird, which is Fletchling, Fletchinder, Talonflame. I like to put Litleo and Pyroar with this, because there's no fire gym, so I kind of have to put them somewhere in there early in the thing. There's one bug, Scatterbug, and believe it or not, we're already past the first gym, because that's the bug gym, but there's only really one bug type. So then you find Furfrou, the weird dog, you find Pancho and Pangoro in the grass there, and a lot of fairy types, and I like to put all the fairy types together, because the fairy types are the one thing they did put effort in, because, you know, it's a new type, and you gotta put some Pokemon in there. So we have Flabebe, we have Floette, Florges, we have the weird version exclusive trade items, which is Spiritzy, Aromatisse, Swirlix, and Slurpuff. And they also made a lot of like standalone fairy types with dual types. So we have the Dene, we have Sylveon. Sylveon's not a dual type, it's also a standalone thing, technically, in the generation, but not like as a whole, because it's an Eevee evolution, of course. Klefki and Carbink. Then we come to the second gym, which is Fossils again, because they really like early game rock gyms for some reason, and I don't get it. So we have Tyrant and Tyrantrum, Mora and Aurorus, and there's also a rock water type, which is Binacle and Barbaracle, and I'll include the other water type along with that, which would be Clauncher, Clawitzer. Well, technically Scrub was also a water type with Dragalge, and I'm putting them in because ocean stuff. From here, we're kind of speedrunning through gyms, because there's not really much interesting happening. So Gym 3 would be Skiddo Go-Goat for grass, Gym 4 would be Helioptile, and Heliolisk for electric. Now this is what always happens, because I always forget Honedge, Doublade, and Aegislash. For some reason, I never get those, because they're available way earlier, and I just don't remember them for some reason. Let's see, what am I doing here? The sixth gym would be... Am I missing a gym? Yeah, oh yeah, I skipped all over the fighting gym. And that's what I'm missing, Hawlucha, the only remaining fighting type. Gym 3 is fighting, Gym 4 is grass, Gym 5 is electric, Gym 6 is fairy. We've all had those. Gym 7 is psychic with Espor and Meowstic. Now the other psychic type would be Inkay and Malamar, and then I'm thinking to the anime again, because I watched a little bit while growing up, and Team Rocket had an Inkay and a Pumpkaboo Gourgeist, and Pumpkaboo and Gourgeist share a type with Phantom and Trevenant as both grass and ghosts. That's also in the Ice Gym area with Bergmite and Avalugg. Those three I'm missing there would be Goomy, Sliggoo, and Goodra, because they like putting pseudos in the middle of the decks nowadays. We have Noibat and Noivern, and that is the decks, I believe. We have Xerneas, Yveltal, Zygarde, and the three Mythicals, Hoopa, Volcanion, and the only Gen 6 Mega, Diancie. Then on to Alola, and that's kind of a weird category for me, because I played them a lot, but it's also the games I haven't played for the longest amount of time. I've revisited every other region, basically, so I might forget a few details here. I'm thinking of like first island melee stuff right now, so that's Rockruff and Lycanroc. There's, of course, the first trial, which is normal, and the second trial, which is fighting with Crabrawler and Abominable. There's also the Meadow, Cutiefly, Rabombi, or Corio. Second island has all the types, but before that, something I always forget and remember now because I'm talking, is the ranch area with Mudbray and Mudsdale. First area is, I believe, water, which has Marini, Toxapex, Dewpider. The other water bug type is Wimpod and Golisopod, and there's a couple standalones like Pukumuku, and maybe that's the only... No, wait, Wishiwashi, of course, the totem. Then grass, which is the jungle, which is Fomantis, Lorantis, the three-stage Bounsweet, Steenie, Serena, and Morlo and Shiinotic. There's also the monkeys, which is Oranguru, Passimian, and that might be all the jungle types. Jungle types, you know what I mean. No, wait, Comfey. Always forget that one. It's not a jungle Pokemon, but it always fits in there because it's flowery and nature stuff. And it's really annoying as well to fight against. Fire types is only Salandit and Salazzle, I believe, because Marek is already on here, which means the Grand Trial is a rock, which we also already had. So I think that's already good to move on. No, it's not, because I always forget Stuffle and Beware. So the third island, I believe, what trials does it have? I think it's just the Ghost Trial and then the Dark Trial. No, it also has Electric. Right, Pikachu clone, Togedemaru, it has Minior on the mountain. I always like to include other standalones with that, like Turtonator and Komala. Ghost Trial, which is Sandygast, Palisand, Mimikyu. Also has Delmice, it's technically later, but it's Ghost type, so it fits. And then you have, of course, Potown with Guzma and his whole bug gang. You have the Dark Trial, there's nothing too interesting there. Except I am missing something. I know I'm missing Drampa, but that means there's another standalone I'm missing. There's type No and Silvally in there, I know that. For some reason they're really early, even though they're legendaries. Oh god, I'm missing a standalone. No, it's fine, I'll just move on. We have Jangmo-O for the dragons. I think we're on to Ultra Beasts then, even though that single spot is gonna bother me immensely, like it always does. I never know how to pronounce this to this day. Buzzwole, Xurkitree, Buzzwole and Pheromosa are exclusives, of course. We have Kartana and Celesteela, other exclusives, and Guzzlord to round out the original Ultra Beasts. Then in the Ultra games, Poipole, Naganadel, Blacephalon, and Stakataka were added. And of course Tapus, Cosmog, Cosmoem, Solgaleo, and Lunala. And Marshadow, Zeraora, Magearna, and Necrozma, of course, other legendary. It's always like they had 2 games all about it. Why am I missing only that one? No, I hate it. The thing is, I do know what it is because it's always grouped in with the other, like standalones. It's Bruxish. Because I forgot it at the water section. There we go. Meltan, Melmetal for the unknown because they're Go exclusive for some fucking reason. I don't know why. Okay, almost done. We have 2 generations left. Galar and Paldea. And technically Hisui, but that's so small I don't really count it. Galar is weird. It's, yeah, not my favorite region. Let's just start anyway. First gym would be Eldegoss and Gossifleur. And I like to include Applin with that because it's also a grass type. And then in that area that already has the daycare, which means Toxel and Toxtricity. I believe it also has... I don't have to worry about regionals, never mind. So, second gym, which has Choodle, Dreadnought, Aracuda, and Barrascuda. Third gym is Sizzlipede, Centiskorch, Rolycoly, Sparkle, and Colossal. Now the area up ahead is kind of weird because it's kind of a version exclusive thing. Because the 4th gym is either fighting type or ghost type depending on the version, which is a kind of interesting thing. So, but it means I'm like splitting the encounters a bit. So of course there's general desert stuff like Slickcobra and Sandaconda. We have the ground types like Yamask and Runerigus. And then it splits into either fighting or ghost. So we have Phalanx, never know how you say it. There's Farfetch'd and Surfetch'd, Clobopus and Graplocked. Ghost types, we obviously have Yamask, we have Corsola and Cursula, Sinistea, Poltegeist. But then we reach the forest, the Glimwood Tango with all the psychic types like Indeedee, like the Ponyta line that I already have, and the Impidimp, Tenna, Hattrem, Hatterene. For other things, it is a fairy gym, so that's Milcery and Alcurimi in there. I'm missing a lot of standalones, but I'm not because it's evolution, so that's Obstagoon, Berserker, and Mr. Rhyme. That one next to Sandaconda I'm missing is Cramorant, by the way, which I always pair with Morpeko, because they're exclusives in Paldea DLC for some reason, and I always remember that. We're reaching the ice area, which means Snom, Frostmoth, which means Ice-Q and Stonjourner. And there's also Pincurchin near the icy waters there. To the Dragon Gym, Ralodon, and the fossils, which I could have done way earlier, which is Arctozolt, Dracozolt, Arctofish, Dracofish. Still missing 2 there. I don't like that, because I am not sure what I'm missing. We have Dreepy, Dracloak, Dragapult. Oh wait, I know what I'm missing because the Steel fight, the Steel, not leader, but like Steel trainer, is the final boss, which is Chairman Rose, which has Qfent and Copper-Raja. What triple am I? Oh wait, yeah, DLC is listed as later, so this is legendaries. Zacian, Zamazenta, and Eternatus. You have Zarude in there, and legendaries Kupfu, Urshifu, Regieleki, Regidrago, Calyrex, Spectrier, Galastria. Look at that! Galar done. Now Hisui is very easy because half of it is formed, so there's just a couple new ones in there, so I'm just knocking those out. Cleavor, Weirdeer for first area, we have Ursaluna, and what else? No, that's the second area. Basculegion for third area, and Overquill, which is somehow listed later for some reason, even though Coronet Highlands is after this area. Sneasler, and of course Enamorus is the only new legendary in there. Now we've reached honestly the hardest part, because Paldea is the newest, which means I've only played it a couple times, and it's open world, which means there's not really that much of a linear order I can do with routes and all that. So it's mostly gonna be weird associations again, and maybe gym order also. Early game has weird stuff like the bugs, nimble, and low kicks. Not Spinnerack, I always confuse it with Spinnerack, but it's Tarantula and Spidops. There's also like 3 dogs, which is Fido. We have the Ghost Dog, Grievert, and Mastiff and Mastiff. The electric types, of course, Palmy, Palmo, Palmot, and the mice, Tandemouse, Mousehold. I believe that covers most of the early game already. And then you get kind of the choice, go either left or right. And the left part is, I believe, the first gym in the order, and the right is the Titan. So just let's go gym order. So we have Smoliv, Arbaleva, and Doliv. There's, what else is over there, honestly? I don't think much is over there. Never mind, we're going the other way. Knackley, Knacklestack, and Garganical. I'm missing something there. I believe that's Squawkabilly. Yeah, see? Also one of those weird standalone flying types that no one really cares about. Let's see, what else is there? Well, the rock types like Cloth as the first Titan. We find Charcadet there. And there's a grass gym, which means Smoliv also would have worked there. Since we have fire types anyway, I always like to put Capsakid and Scovillain in there. You'll see this doesn't follow Dex order at all. We have Bramblin and Brambleghast. And then we reach the area after that. But you can find Cyclozar there, you can find Wattrel, you can find Kilowattrel. Also fits with the third gym, I think. Electric. Anyway, Tadbulb, Billybolt, and with the third gym, it's located near the ocean, so it means it has a lot of beach Pokemon like Finizen, Palafin, Wiglet, and Wugtrio. Then you kind of move into the weird rocky desert area, which has Varoom and Revavroom. Also has, it has something. It has the Poison Team Star area, which means Shroodle and Grafaiai. After this, I believe you head all the way across the map to the fourth gym in the water gym, which has Falooza, and I've already kind of done most of the water types anyway. And the desert has Relor, it has Rapska, it has Gimmighoul on that weird tower. It has the Psychic type. It's not Frillish, it's... oh god, what's it called? Flittle. Oh yeah, you know what I missed with the grass gym? Toadschool and Toadscruel. Fifth gym is normal, and the only thing I'm missing from there is Flamigo, I believe. Which, Flamigo isn't even normal. That's because Larry also is Elite 4 and he uses Flamigo in there, so I associate Flamigo with Larry, and yeah, it's weird. Don't question it. It's my weird methods again. Paldea is hard for me. What else am I missing? Titans, Earthworm, and Bombardier, and then also Tatsugiri and Dondozo. Though that 3 slot, that's Tinkatink, Tinkatun, Tinkatuff. I think we honestly might be at the end of gyms already. We have Toddles Titan on the mountain. We have Glimmet Glimora under the mountain. There we go. Am I missing something before Wooper? Is that all the standalone evolutions? Not standalone across gen. There's 5, I believe, which is Annihilate. Yes. Clodsire, the Dunsparce, Farigiraf, and King Gambit. I believe we've basically done it then, because the rest is all the paradoxes. We have the cutesy ones like Iron Bundle, Screamtail. We have the elephants, Iron Treads, Great Tusk. The more like muscly guys like Iron Hands, Brute Bonnet. The Dark Ghost, Iron Jugulis, and Fluttermane. The Volcarona ones, Iron Moth, Slitherwing, and the Rocky Terrain exclusive ones, Iron Thorns and Sandy Shocks. And like Secret Cave is Iron Valiant and Roaring Moon. They're back here with doing pseudo legendaries towards the end, which means Arctobax, Frigibax, Excalibur, and legendaries, which would mean Koraidon, Miraidon, and the 4 Treasures of Ruin, which is Wochen, Chin, Pao, Tinglu, Shiu. There we go, Paldea done, which means only Paldea DLC is left, which is easy. Poltergeist, Sinistcha, Diplin, Okidogi, Monkey Dory, the legendaries, Serendipity, Ogrepawn, and Pecharunt to complete that. The only mythical for Paldea. Archaludon. Is the rest just paradoxes? Walking Wake, Urging Fire, Raging Bolt, Iron Crown, Iron Leaves, not Iron Leaves, Iron Boulder. No, I'm missing 2. Let's see, what am I missing? I am missing Terrapagos. And what is the other one I'm missing? This is really bad. You're telling me I'm missing the actual last one, and it's a Paldea DLC one? Oh, it's Hydrapple, of course, the evolution. Easy, done. Only took an hour because I'm talking over it, but I can do it in like 30 minutes. Anyway, that's it. Thank you.